This is Scott Becker with the Becker Private Equity and Business Podcast. Here are 12 of the stories that we're following today. Today's March 5th, so hopefully you're listening to this March 5th, but the markets fell yesterday and the markets are tanking again today. I guess the one flip side to that is Target reported great earnings and is up about 12 to 13%, a great plus for Target. Second, Tesla dropped a little more than 7% yesterday. Their sales in China are tanking, and China is very important because it's the largest market for EVs and cars in general. Sales of its main competitor also tanked in February. February's a tough month in China because of holidays, but even that stated, year after year over year, the results were way down. Tesla is now down nearly 25% year to date. Third, New York Community Bank also got hurt yesterday. Its stock was down about 14.5%. Fourth, the looming bank failures are another reminder to our country that we better get our debt picture in order, because handling all these bailouts, handling all these problems, we're more fragile. It's harder to do that when the nation is so heavily indebted. Fifth, Pfizer, one of the great darlings of the COVID era, is down 10% year to date, so finding it harder to stay as relevant as COVID moves a little bit out of the everyday concern and issue. Sixth, Apple is now down 10%, 9% year to date, very similar to Tesla. It's struggling in China. Its iPhone sales year after year for the first 6 weeks of the year fell by 24%. That's a real problem because it's a hugely important market for all these companies. So that's that situation. But Apple's down about 9% year to date. It still is the second largest company in the country by market cap, but struggling, of course. Seventh, the companies like Tesla and Apple that have relied so much on China for the growth are particularly taking it on the chin at the moment. That doesn't mean that will continue, but really a real challenge. Eighth, Novo Nordisk just did a study, and this goes to the weight loss drugs, the GLP-1s, Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk, which have been growing like crazy. Another study by Novo Nordisk shows that the weight loss drugs will help on kidney failure and other diseases. And I think this is not surprising. So what we really know as a nation is if everybody loses some weight, our nation will be much healthier. If I lose a little bit of weight, my joints will be much healthier. But this goes for all of us throughout the nation. A little bit of weight loss goes a long way in terms of health care. And so their study, not surprising, Novo Nordisk is up 24% year to date. Eli Lilly's also in the top 10 now in terms of overall market cap. Ninth, just a pleasure to speak yesterday at a conference in Orlando, the Federation of American Hospitals Conference. I was one of the keynote speakers and had a chance to moderate a panel together with that and talked about healthcare trends. It reminds me, and we'll do a different podcast on this, is that when I'm tired and not excited to go to a speech, how much I ultimately enjoy it, how much I have to remind myself that everything I do in life, I have to put in the paradigm of, I get to do this, and I'm so fortunate to do it, versus I have to do this. I think it's just a very important reminder for all of us. 10th, thrilled again to see the Becker Private Equity Podcast towards the very top of the rankings of the Apple Business News. Our Becker's Healthcare Podcast also doing well. 11th, for our annual meeting, it feels like back to the old days. I'm going to get to do a talk with two of my partners, Gretchen Townsend and Tim Fry, on key legal issues affecting hospitals, health systems. Of course, before building a media company, I was a healthcare lawyer, so fun to go back and do some of that. 12th, the last story I'll report on today is the Supreme Court voting 9-0 that states can't take President Trump off the ballots. And there are real cases against President Trump, and then there are ridiculous cases against President Trump. Every time a prosecutor or a state or someone takes an underhanded move against President Trump, and this is not to argue that he's not an underhanded guy himself, this tends to rebound in his favor. Him winning this case 9-0 at the Supreme Court is going to make him look like he's somehow or another vindicated, and people are going to read into that he's a better person than he is. So my advice, if Democrats want to win the election, is maybe bring real cases against President Trump. Don't bring these BS abusive process cases against President Trump. And again, I don't endorse either. I'm not a Biden fan. I'm not a Trump fan. But this concept of bringing cases that are ridiculous cases like this New York civil case against him on the real estate side, all they do is strengthen him versus hurt him. And it's really amazing for me to watch as an observer. Again, this is Scott Becker, 12 Stories Today, 773-766-5322. If you're the first person to respond to this and send me a text at 773-766-5322, we'll go ahead and we will send you a $100 Amazon gift ticket. It cannot be like yesterday it was. My mother asked jokingly if she can get the gift certificate. It could not be her. Thank you, Naomi Becker, but no. But if you are the first person to respond to this, 773-766-5322, we'll send you the $100 Amazon gift certificate. You got to mention in the text 12 stories we're following. Thank you very much for listening.